8 o'clock, and we'll get the SIDA board meeting started. All are present. Mike is in Albany, and he's on video conference with us here and joined us. Can I get a
we got to do the public
we got to do the public. We've got several public hearings. First, Seneca Armory Associates.
Yep.
Would like to do the reading?
I will do it. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing pursuant to Section 859A of the New York General Municipal Law will be held by the City of Syracuse Industrial Development Agency on the 16th day of April 2019 at 8 a.m. local time at 233 East Washington Street, Common Council Chambers, City Hall, Syracuse, New York, in connection with the following matter. Seneca Armory Associates, LLC, or an entity to be formed, requested the agency undertake a project consisting of A, the acquisition of an interest in approximately 13,640 square feet of improved real property located at 239-235 West Fayette Street in the city of Syracuse, the reconstruction and renovation of an existing approximately 28,868 square foot building for mixed use consisting of approximately 7,369 square feet of retail space on the ground floor and approximately 14,124 square feet on the second and third floors to contain approximately 20 Class A apartment units and approximately 7,375 square feet of common area storage and mechanical areas in the building. The acquisition and installation in and at the land and facility of furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Excuse me. B, the granting of certain financial assistance in the form of exemptions from state and local sales and use tax and mortgage recording tax in accordance with Section 874 of the General Municipal Law. C, the appointment of the company or its designee as an agent of the agency in connection with the acquisition, reconstruction, renovation, equipping, and completion of the project facility. And D, the lease of the land and facility by the agency pursuant to a lease agreement and the acquisition of an interest in the equipment pursuant to a bill of sale from the company to the agency and the sublease of the project facility back to the company pursuant to a sublease agreement. The company shall be the initial owner or operator of the project facility. The agency will, at the above stated time and place, hear all persons with views with respect to the proposed financial assistance to the company, the proposed owner-operator, the location of the project facility, and the nature of the project. A copy of the application filed by the company with the agency with respect to the project, including an analysis of the costs and benefits of the project, are available for public inspection during the business hours at the office of the agency located at 201 East Washington Street, 6th floor.
Thank you. And with that, is anybody here to speak in favor of the project? If you could just state your name and...
Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony DePeso. I'm one of the owners of the Seneca building. I grew up in the area. I'm a graduate of Lemoyne College. Because I'm a graduate of Lemoyne and grew up in the area, I understand the significance of Armory Square and downtown Syracuse. You can imagine our excitement, especially mine, upon purchasing this building, as we now would own a special part of Armory Square and a location I know very well because of Molly's Bar. Our project, the Seneca Building Renovation, is a renovation of approximately 19,000 square feet on the vacant second and third floors of the building. We are converting the space into 20 apartments, as mentioned. We also just completed renovations to the retail space on the Fayette Street side and signed a commercial long-term tenant. Molly's Bar, as previously mentioned, is also part of the building and currently under a long-term lease. Another part of this project is to renovate the vacant retail space in our building on Walton Street side. Once this is complete, it will also be suitable for a future long-term commercial tenant. For 2 years since purchasing the property, we tried to market and renovate the upstairs existing space. Unfortunately, the layout didn't meet modern space office standards, and we were left with the only choice of renovating to create apartments. This renovation will be very costly because this building is currently in the historic register. We plan on keeping the historic architecture of the exterior and the wood floors, ceilings, windows, etc. This project will create jobs and boost the economy. Construction will bring close to 100 jobs during our 12-month construction period. When our vacant space on Walton Street is also occupied, there will be potential of another 40 new jobs created, depending on the potential tenant. Our new apartment renters will also help the downtown economy as well. Our demographic is young professionals who will be working, living, and spending their money downtown. We fully believe that with your help with this project, it will be a success for everyone involved and for the future of downtown Syracuse. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. How do you spell your last name for me?
DiPeso. D-I-P-E-S-O.
Is anybody else here to speak in favor of the project?
Our architect couldn't make it. He was on vacation, so it's just me today for now.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else here to speak in favor of the project? Is anybody here to speak against the project?
I'm going to read this because I would like to actually put it in the minutes.
Aggie, could you just state your name?
Yep. Just a minute. Just going to read you the agenda.
Okay.
Couldn't hurt.
No. Okay. I'm Aggie Lane of the Urban Jobs Task Force. Through SIDA, the Urban Jobs Task Force would like the city to begin investing in the people who live in the city's neighborhoods. One possible way is for developers to spend 20% of the project's construction wages by hiring Syracuse-build trainees. And for every percentage missed, pay a percentage of the tax break to a SIDA fund earmarked for Syracuse-build training. For example, the Seneca Armory project is hoping to get tax exemptions worth $121,000. To complete the project, the developers report that they will be paying about $544,000 in construction wages. 20% of those wages would be $108,825. If the developer only pays 10% or $54,400 to Syracuse-build trainees, they would then pay 10% of the value of their tax exemption, which would be $12,000, into a training fund for Syracuse-build. This should not be seen as a penalty. Besides renovating our buildings, we need to be investing in the city's human capital. It's only right and fair. Of course, this change would require reporting with a package like LCP Tracker. LCP Tracker would also keep projects honest. I am hearing that the project at 300 Washington, across from City Hall, hired construction workers outside the 6-county region, which is not allowed. Without a monitoring package, the city and its people are being taken advantage of. Thank you, and I'd like to submit the statement into the minutes, hopefully for later consideration by the board.
Thank you, Aggie.
Thank you.
Is anybody else here to speak against the project?
Good morning, Stephanie. Rich Pachowski, Executive Director of Syracuse United Neighbors. Son, neighborhood organization's been around for 40 years. I come from an organization that represents the neighborhoods on the south, southwest, near west side neighborhoods. I work with home headquarters and marketing and taking applications for low-income people to get, in this case, grants to fix up their house and remove code violations. Last week, as I take an application, I had the privilege of talking with Jim and Ruth at different times. Both of them, oddly enough, live on the 300 block of West Pleasant. I don't think anything in the neighborhood and business development have anything to do with that neighborhood. That's between Midland and entrance to McKinley Park. Pretty depressing little neighborhood, small little block. Jim was beside himself. You know, he says, I got 2 land bank houses on either side of me. And he held up his hands. Jim is an elderly guy who lives with his wife, Alice. You know, he says, I get frustrated with the kids from the neighborhood. They take their BB guns and shoot out the windows. I try getting the cops. Cops don't come. You know, it's just too bad what my block has turned into. And that was same echoed by Ruth. She lives across the street. You know, this board is going to hand out, like in 2018, $14 million in tax breaks to downtown, to take care of downtown. Meanwhile, our neighborhoods on the south and near west side suffer. Proud owners like Jim and Ruth, you know, struggle day in and day out to keep up their neighborhood. It's a depressing look. I have the same depressing look in my mind when I get out of my house on Bishop Ave in Brighton. 2 doors down, a vacant house owned by the land bank. 3 doors down, another vacant house. Around the corner, another vacant house. Who knows what's going on with that? You know, so I want you to keep in mind about your doling out $121,000 in sales tax breaks, mortgage recording tax, and you're giving nothing to the folks on the south and near west side neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Anybody else speaking against the project?
Good morning. My name is Bob Wilmot. I'm with the Carpenters Union out of Syracuse here. I'm not speaking either for or against the projects. I just want to say a couple of things to the board. Not sure if you know or understand, but over $2 billion a year is lost in revenues due to subcontractors not paying their guys on the payroll. They're paying them under the table and things like that. They're not paying taxes, they're not paying benefits, they're not paying workers' comp, you know, all the things that kind of go along with being a contractor. We would ask that the IDA put a requirement in for any tax benefits of any sorts to require a certified payroll to help curb the fraud and underground construction market. It takes advantage of unemployed, minority, and vulnerable workers. This would also help with the certified payroll. It would also help be able to track out-of-town workers to the point that Aggie was making. You would be able to see, you know, where the contractors are hiring from, not just the contractors itself, but the people that they're employing. She spoke at 300 East Washington Street. I know for a fact that there's people that are working there. They're trucking them in from Rochester, right? They're all working under the table. I mean, this would just really be a benefit to the city and to you guys to be able to track it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anybody else in the room that would like to speak against the project? Anybody want to speak against the project? Last time, anybody who would like to speak against the project? Okay. We'll move on to Alan Byer, and if you could read that one.
Yep. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing pursuant to Section 859A of the New York General Municipal Law will be held by the City of Syracuse Industrial Development Agency on the 16th day of April 2019 at 8 a.m. local time at 233 East Washington Street, Common Council Chambers, City Hall, Syracuse, New York, in connection with the following matter. Allen Byer Auto Sales, Inc., Allen I. Byer Family Trust, Stephen Gary Byer, DBA Byer Real Estate Enterprises, and West Genesee Realty Associates, the company, requested the agency undertake a project consisting of A, the acquisition of an interest in approximately 1.89 acres of improved real property bearing tax map number 108.1-02-19, you're killing me, Sue, and commonly referred to as 1232-36 West Genesee Street, also known as 1230 West Genesee Street. 2, approximately 3 acres of improved real property bearing tax map number 108.1-02-35.1 and commonly referred to as 1232 West Genesee Street, rear. And 3, approximately 2 acres of improved real property bearing tax map number 108.1-02-20 and commonly referred to as 1288 West Genesee Street, each in the city of Syracuse, New York. There is an existing approximately 25,820 square foot building located on parcel 1, an existing square foot building located on parcel 3, all of which are served by common driveways, parking, and pedestrian walkways, all of which comprise the Allen Beyer Volvo facility. The renovation to the improvements, including but are not limited to the interior showroom, sales offices, and reception areas, external replacement of entry and new exterior wall finishes, updated signage, the existing basement, replacement of an area of a deteriorating floor slab, refreshed directional pavement graphics, and roof replacement. The acquisition and installation in and at the land and facility of furniture, fixtures, and equipment. B, the granting of certain financial assistance in the form of exemptions from real property tax, state and local sales and use tax, and mortgage recording tax in accordance with Section 874 of the General Municipal Law. C, the appointment of the company or its designee as an agent of the agency in connection with the acquisition, reconstruction, renovation, equipping, and completion of the project facility. And D, the lease of the land and facility by the agency pursuant to a lease agreement and the acquisition of an interest in the equipment pursuant to a bill of sale from the company to the agency, and the sublease of the project facility back to the company pursuant to a sublease agreement. The company is or will be the initial owner or operator of the project facility. A copy of the application and any supplements filed by the company with the agency with respect to the project, including an analysis of the costs and benefits of the project, are available for public inspection during the business hours at the office of the agency located at 201 East Washington Street, 6th floor, Syracuse, New York.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in favor of the project? Anybody here to speak in favor of the project? Anybody here to speak in favor? Anybody here to speak against the project? Anybody?
Rich Pachowski, Syracuse Shy Neighbors. 648 land bank vacant properties are around the near west side, southwest, and south side, both houses and lots. Just adding on to what I was talking about, West Pleasant, about Jim and Ruth. It's a short little block, probably about 15 houses. They're on top of each other, only about a driveway between the houses. And you forgot to mention there are 4 vacant land bank properties on the 300 block that could use your assistance to inspire people to buy houses on the 300 block and move in with Jim and Ruth. They would be great neighbors. This would be a great thing for the land bank to do. Spread your wealth around.
Anybody else who would like to speak against the project? If not, I'm going to call that the public hearing is closed, and we're going to call the meeting to order. It's 8:20. All board members are present. The president, Michael Frame, is in Albany on teleconference. Do we have any changes to the minutes? I would just state that I was present last month, I think under the board present.
Oh, yeah. We'll make that order.
Does refer to Mr. Thompson, my father, in there somewhere, but okay. So proof of notice.
Ooh, we just got to
Nope,
vote on the
I'm
minutes,
sorry.
Steve.
What's that?
We just have to vote on the minutes.
Yes. Can we get a motion for the acceptance of the minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
In a second? All in favor? Aye. So moved. Proof of notice.
Notice was duly noted both here and the facility Chairman Frame is at in Albany.
Okay. We voted on the minutes. New business.
Good morning, everyone. The first item on the agenda under new business is the Seneca Armory project, for which we just had the public hearing. Under that project, the first resolution is the seeker resolution. You will note that this board has been appointed as lead agency for purposes of conducting an uncoordinated review. The applicant did submit the necessary EAF forms for review. It was determined that this is classified as an unlisted action and will not have a significant negative impact upon the environment, and there is a negative declaration attached to the finding.
Okay. Any discussion? I just ask, is in the summary, it says expense 4 million something, and I think down in
Judy's summary.
it says 28, is that which is, it says 28 in the project summary, and in the
28 what?
28 million, 2 million, I mean 2 million.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
20,000.
And
That
up,
was a change that we took out, because the 4 million included acquisition, they've already acquired it, so.
okay,
we
so
took
the
it out.
acquisition portion is taken
yeah,
out.
And I'm
Okay.
sorry, it didn't get changed,
Okay.
my
Nope.
bad.
And we've lost it. Okay.
Nice catch.
Approval of the resolution authorizing the agency to undertake the project.
No, we have to vote on the seeker one first.
I'll make a motion
I've
to
lost
accept the
my,
negative declaration on the seeker.
Thank you.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So moved?
Thank you. The next resolution in the agenda is the inducement resolution. I will note that the financial assistance being sought by the project consists of mortgage recording tax and state and local sales and use tax. There is no pilot being requested with respect to this project. The inducement resolution authorizes the execution and delivery of the agency agreement that is attached to the resolution. It also authorizes the appointment of the company as your agent for purposes of undertaking and completing the project, and authorizes an amount not to exceed $100,000 in state and local sales and use tax. I will note that this project is located in a highly distressed area.
So how many jobs? They said this job depends on.
They're planning to retain 18 jobs and create 17 new jobs.
Any discussion? Can I get a motion on the inducement resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Going to abstain. Against.
One abstain?
Against.
One against?
Wait a minute.
And we
You
take,
made the motion, though, Ken.
Yeah, I made a motion.
Okay.
we better get a count on this?
Abstain from what? Ken?
Ken, your vote was?
Against.
Against.
So we have 3 in favor.
President?
Aye.
Okay, 3 ayes, 1 abstain, and 1 no.
So the motion
Motion
carries.
moves. The final resolution?
Excuse me. So the last resolution in your agenda with respect to this project is the final approving resolution that authorizes the execution and delivery of all necessary lease transactional documents to confer the benefits approved.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 3 favorable, 1 opposed, and 1 abstained. Motion moves. Where are we on
I'm sorry.
the back?
Trying to keep up.
Okay, common space Warren.
The next matter in the agenda is Common Space Warren. You may recall back in January, this board adopted all the necessary resolutions to undertake this project. It is a mixed-use project located at 345 and 351 South Salina. Subsequent to those resolutions and in speaking with their lender and their contractors, it was determined that a small modification needed to be made to the original project design, and they wanted to bring that back to the board. It is not significant enough to require a new public hearing, and it does not change the financial assistance enough to require a public hearing. Notwithstanding, we did want to bring the changes back to the board. So as outlined in the resolution before you, the changes are as follows. To the 349 building, what we're calling that, Originally, they were going to have 10,800 square feet of office space. They've reduced that to 8,100 square feet, and the additional $2,700. The additional 2,700 square feet, they're turning into 2 apartment units on the 5th floor. With respect to the 351 building, they have increased, originally it was 22,500 square feet to accommodate 44 apartments. They are increasing that to 30,000 square feet and making 53 apartments. So those are that's the scope of the change. Really, the project itself is not changing. It's just shifting square footage a little bit. And they are asking, as a result of that, the costs of the project have increased slightly, and they are requesting that the state and local sales and use tax benefits awarded shall not exceed $215,284, which is just a little bit above $26,000 increase in what was previously awarded. And the same with respect to the mortgage recording tax. It is going to increase by a few $1,000s, $6,000 with respect to the exemption.
Okay, any discussion?
With respect to those modifications, what brought about the changes again, Sue?
I'm sorry, what brought about the cash flows? The lender was saying the cash flows wouldn't work the way that they had the original design, so they needed to decrease some of the office space and increase some of the rental units.
Now, this location has 70, does this have positions working out of the, or
Yes.
people working?
Yes, and this does not impact the job retention or the job creation.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
remains the same.
It's also worth noting that this is the co-working space downtown and expansion of that space. So in addition to the existing tenants and their job creation, there are people in and out of there every day, and that space has been full for a couple of years. So this is an expansion of that facility. It's a great tool for us downtown.
Sure. Okay.
And this was, we approved this last
January.
January.
I know I've been playing with the computer too long when I'm trying to expand
And
the
your paper?
paper roll with my fingers so I can read it. Okay. So all in favor of the supplemental application for the financial assistance?
Just need to do the
I'll
resolution.
move it
Okay.
as amended.
As amended. All in favor?
Who seconded? Did we have a second? Ken, okay.
You got to get back, Mike, to run the meeting. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? So moved.
The next item on your agenda is a continuation of a discussion we started with the 2019 budget. One of the things the IDA is able to do is support economic development initiatives in the city of Syracuse. The city is undergoing a full and comprehensive rezone initiative. Owen Kearney from City Planning is here to answer any additional questions you have, but the request before you is to fund the implementation of that project. When it comes before the council and hopefully gets passed, then you have to use the thing. And the proposal here is to contract with the consultants for that implementation, and you have the scope of work, and we can certainly talk about it more. But ultimately, the document is only as good as how we use it. The consultants who have been working with the team for over 4 years would be retained to guide through the development of manuals, implementation, come back in a year after to check in to make sure everything's going well, make sure that, see the thing is working. We did discuss this in our 2019 budget. It is part of that budget and companion with the Open Counter program, which should launch the end of this month. If you have any specific questions, Owen is here. But that is the request before you.
Thank you. Owen, you want to give a little overview, please?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. Owen Kearney, I'm with the city's planning division, and maybe more specific to this request, I am the project lead for Rezone Syracuse, and that, as Nora noted, is a project to update the city's over 50-year-old zoning ordinance. We are nearing the completion of the final draft. We expect to have that later this month, begin the public engagement process next month in May, and ultimately go before the city's planning commission and common council for adoption. But again, as Nora noted, we've been working on this project for over 3 years. And the project it's a significant project. It hasn't been done since the mid-'60s. And the focus is to update the zoning ordinance to make it more user-friendly, to update the zoning and land use regulations, more consistent with not only our adopted land use plan, but just the growth and development of the city that we want to see. So the project, and specifically the request before you, will help to implement that new zoning ordinance and map. That's really what's being produced under the rezone project. But you can have the best zoning ordinance and map in the world, but where property owners, where business owners, where developers interact with that is through these implementation tasks. That is the administrative manual, applications, and ultimately ongoing consultation with the consultant, Clarion Associates out of Colorado. So this is a request specifically focused on getting us over the finish line and having a document and a new ordinance and a new map that's very much available, clear, and helps facilitate development here in our community.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
With respect to opportunity zones, and specifically I want to mention the South Side corridor, how has this project impacted, for example, I-81 is looming on the horizon. How has that those projects, for example, impacted your work here?
As you can imagine, I-81 has been something that we've been thinking about throughout the whole project, and I think maybe the most specific example of how we're addressing that is the zoning right now on the west side of I-81, the side kind of closest to us right here, is largely consistent with a downtown commercial central business district, where across the street you have a mixed bag that really goes back to the 15th Ward of residential and business and some institutional. And one of the things that we're doing really from 690 to point south, almost really down to Martin Luther King, is making the zoning on both sides of 81 consistent. So whatever is chosen, whatever of the three options, that future growth and development in and around that $1 billion investment, $1.5 billion, maybe even $3 billion investment, that we're setting the stage for development along that corridor that's consistent with the city's vision and goals. And again, that's largely imagining downtown type uses and density expanding into the Near East Side, expanding up to those institutional uses up on the hill. Where previously, as I mentioned, there was a fair amount of residential zoning over in that area, and we see that area as much more of a mixed-use district. So again, that's one example of what we're doing to kind of prepare for that 81 decision, is setting the table as far as land use regulations, which will help to facilitate development, but development that is consistent with our vision and the city's goals.
It is. One thing I'd like to mention, and just in terms of commercial opportunities, I know on the south side there's quite a bit of not-for-profit land use that is there. It's been stated that there's less than a 2% commercial development opportunity that currently exists, and that's largely due to, again, the not-for-profit land use that's there. And so as we look at opportunities post I-81 and development on the south side in particular, I think we need to be cognizant of a measure that puts some balance just in terms of that area in particular, having a preponderance of not-for-profit land use there. I know in terms of even churches, for example, there is more than 151 churches that are located on just the south side, more than the 3 other sides of town combined. And so we really have to be, again, cognizant of that land use that's there. I hope this project is cognizant of those issues.
And it is, and I think much like the Near East Side, that area from 690 to essentially East Genesee Street, from 81 really out to maybe Walnut, really as far as Beach Street, that area, and much, as I mentioned, that south, specific, the South Salina corridor, from 81 to Salina, really as far down as Martin Luther King. The zoning in those districts is a mixed-use zoning, and I think it's getting back to the residential point. Residential zoning is something that obviously, as we all can imagine, allows residential uses, but it also allows some nonprofit uses, churches, institutional type uses. So perhaps not a coincidence that those things, you see more of them in those residential districts. The mixed-use districts is going to allow not only your typical retail uses, things like that, commercial uses, warehousing, some manufacturing, research, technology, things that we imagine being very consistent with some of the things we see expanding off of the hill and really even expanding beyond downtown. So opening up the possibilities of what could be developed in that area, allowing greater density in that area, and just taking advantage of the proximity to really the region's economic growth engines, and that is downtown and the hill. So setting the table for that, 81 runs right through the middle of that, and all of these things are things that we've been not only thinking about but reacting to in the new zoning ordinance and map. And as I said, we're preparing a final draft. We've started some meetings, briefing some counselors over the last few weeks. We're going to be reaching out to our advisory committee later this month, and then really out before the public before we get into a more robust legislative process early this summer. And again, these tasks will help the document that we prepare will put the finishing touches on that. And really the materials that we would be preparing as part of these funds would be the materials that the public and the development community and investment community interacts with. Applications, users manual, fee schedules, documents like that. And so it's critical that as much as we'll have a great new ordinance and a great new map available and on the website, having these materials to really get projects over the finish line is critical to, as you can imagine, the continued success of the city.
Any other questions?
I just
Discussion?
have a quick question, Steve, sorry. So, Owen, you referred to the engagement piece, which
Yep.
will start probably May.
Yep.
If I heard you right, you're looking at a fall completion,
That's our expectation.
legislative discussion in the summer.
Begin in the summer. We will begin with it's an action that'll be before both the Planning Commission, as you know, Kathy, and ultimately the Common Council as adoption as a local law. The schedule between now and then is largely under our control as far as scheduling meetings, preparing documents, memos, scheduling, all that stuff. Once we get into that legislative process, one of the other items, and I know an item that this body deals with, is seeker. And it's a pretty robust seeker process. We imagine that to take a few months in and of itself. So we'll begin in early summer, and what that process looks like, we imagine that to be a 4 to 6 month process, which will put us at the end of the year. But again, that's largely dependent on our interaction and coordination with counselors, but also making sure that seeker is done well and done correctly and accurately. And so I offer that as a little bit of context.
I just was looking for the general time.
But yes, very much the goal and our intention is later this year.
Right. And then I'm assuming that you are all, I mean, you know I love planners, but
I do.
sometimes their language is difficult for
Yes.
people like me to interpret
Yeah.
correctly. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we're going to have a robust online, very clear, very specific,
Yep.
very detailed
Yep.
place for users,
Yes.
investors, community
Yeah.
users, applicants, residential applicants
Yes.
to access, and it's Kathy could understand it, not just Ellen.
Understood, and I think two things to that. We, not only the new ordinance, which again was last updated in '67, in probably, we've had over 80 public meetings to date. We're going to probably have at least a dozen more between now and the end of the year. But that was written, we commonly assume that it was written by a team of lawyers over a few weeks. No offense to the attorneys in the room. I apologize. It may not have been, the focus of it was,
It's hard for
Right. The focus was that it's a law, and it was kind of drafted as one, where I think is your experience, and many of you know, that the zoning ordinance is something that whether you're developing a new building downtown or you're doing driveway work or putting a fence around your yard, you're going to be dealing with the zoning ordinance. So making sure that that new ordinance is very much clear, concise, just on the surface, just one, if you were to access it. So not only is the ordinance
Charts, pictures.
been drafted with that in mind, but these materials will take it even a step further. The open counter work that Nora has been leading, the implementation tasks that are before you, and the new ordinance, we feel that all three of those things together will make this a much more accessible document to anybody that needs to use it or wants to use it.
Great. I just would add one other thing. You might ask about the timing of this request now, given that implementation is months away. I think it's important, and Owen and I discussed briefly, as we go out into the public and as we go to those, the Planning Commission and the Common Council, to know that there is a plan for implementation. I think that's an important, it's important to note as you go forward and you're talking to the community, it's not just gonna be like, poof, it's here, but that there is an implementation plan going forward. I think that's critical to the ongoing success of both the approval process, but then,
User.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for
Any
your
other
consideration.
questions or discussion? Hearing none, can I get a motion to accept the proposal?
Motion to accept the proposal.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 0. That brings us to the conclusion.
There are just 3 quick items I want to apprise the board of right now. No, it's all right. The first one is we are awaiting some responses from Steri Pharma. It was a project approved recently. They have had some delays. We're working with them to get a more comprehensive update. So that is just on your radar. It's reporting season. We do actually try to get reports from folks, so we're working with them. The second thing is our ownership of the building at 327 Montgomery. The tenant, the media unit, has chosen to move out, to relocate, to change their operations a little bit. We've been working with them closely on not only the transfer of the building back to us, but any cleanup, electrical bills. There's some fence work that we need to do to secure the rear of the building, so that's ongoing. There was previously allocated funds of, Judy, $10,000?
Yeah, we have allocated funds, yes, and we're probably gonna need to use it.
Particularly to secure the rear of the building with some fencing. We're working with the property owner adjacent to work on that. There is interest in the building, but we do need to do, I think the next item before us will be to go in and do an evaluation of the building's condition. The last item is the pending, we have had interest in a piece of land the IDA owns up on North Midler. It's actually 2100 Coughlin Ave. There's a business up there that is growing rapidly, and Judy's handing out a map. They are interested in acquiring the entire parcel from us for use for their immediate parking needs and future growth. So we will continue to work with them on purchase price, the process there. It's they're a quickly growing company. They'll be here next month, at least for the a license agreement to start work as we go through the Public Authorities Accountability Act process of a potential land sale. But some more information to come, but I did want to put that on your radars as well. And then there's one other item, but we do need to go into executive session for it.
Okay. That's up to Steve.
Can you say how large is that parcel?
About 8 acres.
About 8 acres, okay.
It's been appraised already?
We're getting it appraised now. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. We're going into executive session to discuss a legal matter, Steve.
Oh, we are. Okay.
We do need to do that real quick.
We need to go into executive session. Can I get a motion to go into executive session to discuss legal matters?
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second. All in favor? Aye. So moved.